My name is Michael Strumsky, and this is my podcast, People More Interesting Than Me. Each episode, I'll interview a person with a different background to try to understand what circumstances, family, or tragedy has made them into the individual they are today. Enjoy. Today, I've got Becca Silver with me, longtime friend, went to college, great engineer, and obviously a female, so that's like double the points because I mean, why not? And the tidbit I wanted to mention is I have two female Becca engineers. I've got Becky Temkin and you. I didn't realize that till yesterday. And I
Yep.
was like, because you guys go by, I mean, nobody goes by Rebecca really, right? You know that more than
Yeah, not too many Rebecca's out there. But yeah, and that's how we met through Becky, I think.
was it Becky? Because I was like, is it Julie or was it Becky that we met through?
Well, I met Julie through Becky. Becky was in my engineering classes, and we all lived in West AJ. And so
Okay.
we'd walk back together, and then met Julie, who she was rooming with, and then yeah,
I
I
gotcha.
think.
Yeah, I mean, it's so hard. Like, if you know, I was talking on the podcast to somebody else, and it's like, if you've known someone for like 8 years, you don't know, like, I don't know if this is like this for you, but like the core details of these friends who you've probably spent like 50 or 80 hours with, you didn't know that like their like stepdad had died when they were like 10 or 12. You know what I mean? Like their
Yeah,
backstory, their origins, or
yeah,
like,
it
um,
never comes up.
yeah, you never, I mean, it might come up when you're like completely drunk, but nobody's like that drunk anymore. Like, I don't know, or at least I'm not, sadly. Uh, but you, as well as myself, we're from Montgomery County.
Yep.
Um, we both went to tech, so I feel like a lot of people from Montgomery County, like a larger percentage. I mean, it is a neighboring state, went to tech, but still, like I feel like a lot of people go there. Um, but yeah, sorry. Start me off on, I guess, where you're from, and I guess a little background.
Yeah, so grew up pretty close to you, and in Bethesda, Maryland. And growing up, my parents always distilled for me to go into a STEM field. They said it'd be easy to get a job after, you can make a bigger influence on the world. And then both my dad and my grandfather were both engineers. So got that from them. After, high school and all of that, went to VT with you in industrial and systems engineering. And from there, I just basically hopped around and moved a lot for work. So while in school, I received a scholarship through the Department of Defense and was a civilian for the Air Force for a year before going back to grad school. It was a little bit too slow paced for me. I like really fast paced things. So went back to grad school and went to Georgia Tech in Atlanta. So that's two more moves after school. And then it was a super interesting grad program, actually. There was only 4 kids from America out of the 40.
Wow.
Yeah, and the rest were from either India, Europe, a lot of Chinese kids, Japanese, Panama. So it was really cool. I got to meet a lot of interesting people because it was supply chain engineering. So the broader supply chain. Um, and from there, really thought about what I wanted to do with my career. So I've always had a passion for sports. Like growing up, I was on a ton of sports teams, both in school and out of school, and wanted to carry that on and do that with my career if possible. So what better than to apply to Nike, which is one of the biggest. So applied there, got the job, and ended up moving to Memphis, Tennessee, where I didn't know a single person. And yeah, so that was a cool experience. Going to a brand new city, brand new job, right out of grad school. And yeah, that was where I spent 3.5 years there, various jobs at their distribution center. So it's the distribution center where they ship all Nike products to everywhere in the US. So it's 3 million square feet, massive place. Made a lot of friends there through sports. So that's when I discovered that adult leagues are really where you can meet friends quickly. So at the time I was playing mostly soccer, because that's what I did growing up. And while in soccer, someone told me about volleyball. And I had played 1 year in high school, so I knew the fundamentals, but didn't know much. So I gave it a shot and ended up loving it. So I still play it to this day. And that's, well, I'm jumping ahead, but that's kind of why I ended up in Florida moving here. um, so yeah, after that, got a scholarship through Nike. I mean, got a, promotion through Nike to move to Boston for Converse. And so yeah, made this move. I had some family in Boston, so it was really nice. My dad grew up right outside of Boston, and then some of my mom's family is there too, and my family is a Cape House, so a lot of reason to go there. Was there 3.5 years. Worked for Converse as a product in product integrity for footwear. So got more on the front end side of the supply chain versus Nike was on the back side, completed footwear. Converse was on the front end, got to work with the design and development and manufacturing of the footwear. So that was really cool. And then from there, my last move, I ended up in Florida, in St. Pete. And this was my choice. So for once, I was like, I don't like the cold, couldn't do another Boston winter. So really in November, packed up my stuff, drove down here, and yeah, started a new life here. And yeah, recently bought a house. So excited to move into it.
That's awesome. And
Yeah.
I mean, besides your new house, your birthday is tomorrow too.
Yes.
That's good. By the way, not that there are that many people listening, but we're actually recording in the morning right before work. So we are very up and ready and talkative.
Yes.
So a couple of questions just from what you rattled off. This is me trying to remember and me trying to probably cut this out, but because I was trying to remember, I had 3 good questions for you. One was, have you noticed a difference? Because I work for like a federal government company, and based on private and government, obviously with your work in the Air Force, it's a lot slower than when you're going to companies that are actually trying to make money rather than the government where it's like we're trying to keep it together. Do you kind of notice a very big difference between the two?
Yeah, so that was one of the big problems with, so I was working in industrial engineering for the Air Force, and I was trying to find ways to optimize and save the government money in different departments, and no one wanted me to save them money because they wouldn't get the same budget next year. So this is what they told me, like, if you cut this, then they'll give me less money, and that's less money I can spend. And I was like, okay, well then my job is pretty pointless.
Yeah, that's what I've noticed. It's like a vicious cycle. Like if you want, you probably know this as well as I do, especially with government contractors, like the end of their fiscal year is the end of September. So basically any money they have left, I mean, just like I mean, it's probably like this for private industry as well. By the end of the year, you've got to spend the money or you're literally going to lose it or get your budget shrink. But it's just so funny that the government is just like so entrenched. And you probably had to go through red tape, right? Like the amount of stuff you go through in the government probably takes 3 to 4 additional steps and signatures. Whereas where you were probably working at Nike and Tesla, obviously expenditures, you're going to have to get approval. But with the government, it was more logistics, right?
Yep. Yeah, definitely. And it's kind of funny. It's the opposite at like Nike and Tesla. At the end of the quarter, they cut travel, they cut all expenses, because they want to make sure that they're in the green for like financial purposes.
Like stockholders too.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
This is the end of budget. Yeah.
Yep. So they cut everything at the end of the quarter.
That's funny. Yeah.
Yep.
That's what I imagine. Like, see, you're much more courageous than I am because I've been at the same job. I've been at the same job since I graduated. And I'm just like, I mean, obviously I've looked at other jobs. It's just like it's not maybe it is laziness, but it's more like just being a coward and not moving the job.
I mean, government jobs are good because they're cushioned. They're, not much risk of getting fired, or like I've seen a lot of that working in corporate America. So
but But this isn't even, it's not even a government job. It's like working for the government. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah,
you're
yeah.
dealing with the slow
Contracting.
people. Yeah. Um, so with your process, I mean, you said you were, let's start off with, I guess, your Nike to Converse. So a lot of people don't know this, but Nike owns Converse, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think, I mean, that's just a little fun fact for people that
Yes.
I don't think they know. So I've got a question that's going to be interesting. How many shoes have you kept from your time there? I would imagine, like, I'm not trying to be a stereotype, but women love shoes. So, and you said they would give you like, I think
Yes.
I talked to
So
you at some point.
yeah, so my foot happens to be the perfect sample size. So it is a 7.5,
That's
like
funny.
double B width. So I just lucked into that. Yeah, at Nike, got a ton. A lot of the returns that they couldn't put back on the shelf because the box was damaged or something like that, they would give to employees. So got a ton of employee giveaway is what they called it. So I've way too many. At the peak, it was probably around 200. Gave a lot away because there's no
200. That's
way I
crazy.
want 200 pairs of sneakers. Converse too, I was perfect sample size, so I would test all the shoes. So they would give them to me to walk around for a few months, make sure that the quality would hold up. So went through like a lot of every couple months I had a couple pairs I was testing. So
Gotcha.
never with the same shoes on my feet.
And I think I think I must have been watching your Instagram or something like that. But you've interviewed with like, you know how they do the celeb like tie-in sometimes. Have you met any not in
Yes.
person, but like at least in Zoom calls, right?
Yes, there have been a lot of like, yeah, Trevor Noah was on a Zoom call. A lot of big name sport like athletes came to Nike. I know Penny Hardaway, I remember him. And a lot of celebrities came to Converse, like comedians and what's that woman's name? The woman from Broad City. She like emceed
Oh,
our
which one?
um
Abby or what's the other
the
girl's name?
brown haired girl. I forgot her name.
I think she's on Sesame Street too. I remember who you're talking about. She's got like really cool black hair, the
Yeah,
short
yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So
I'll probably
she like, yeah, she emceed our end of year party. So that was really cool. She was hilarious.
Alana Glazer.
Alana, yes, you're right.
I love her. Like I would love to meet her.
Yeah,
She's like my spirit animal.
yeah.
Uh, that's awesome though. So just touching on, well, I guess this is talking about Nike, but it's just funny that you went from Nike to Converse. Oh, that's what I wanted to bring up. What is your opinion on Converses on like arch support? Because I've always thought like Converses, they look amazing. Like in theory, they look perfect. They like, I don't know, they form fit, but my idea is like they've always been like not strong enough. What's your opinion on that? I know that's
Yeah.
totally random. That's just one of my thoughts.
Yeah, so I mean, I was in quality, so we talked about it a lot. We talked about making like different tiers, some with arch support, some not. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say this stuff, but I don't work for them anymore. So but yeah, I agree. I don't wear, and I didn't wear many Converse before the job, and I don't wear many Converse now because I agree they aren't the most comfortable for me. Some people like the no arch, but yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, because the other thing is, I mean, I assume Nike bought them what, like 20, 30, I don't know. When
Yeah,
did
like
it, do you know?
15 to 20 years ago now, I think.
Yeah, the only thing
Yeah.
I would think is like you think Nike would throw that in, like some like carbon fiber or like fiberglass type sole that they can just kind of slip into the bottom. But
Yeah, we did have some that had a Nike insert, but there's a lot of like a lot of the true Converse wearers don't want or are so different than the typical like Nike people, and they don't want their loyal customers thinking that they sold out to Nike. So they try and keep them very separate.
that makes total sense. Plus, it's
Yeah.
probably much cheaper to make the originals rather than throw in. Well, I mean, you're probably the expert on that more than anybody else because you've
Yes.
seen like you've been in the factories, you've been in like you're
Yeah.
you're the process optimizer, basically, right? You're the head honcho on that, and not just with that, but with the Tesla batteries as well.
Yeah, so it was really cool with Converse. I got to a lot of the footwear factories in Vietnam and China. And part of when I first joined, one really cool thing that I got to do is spend a month in Upper Vietnam in Hai Phong, which is kind of the middle of nowhere. There's like, I don't think I even met another American while I was there. So I spent a month there in the factory and learned the ins and outs of shoemaking. And every day after, I like took a shoemaking lesson and got on the sewing machine and got to stitch. And at the end, I made 4 pairs of sneakers.
So you have a fallback. That's what you're telling me.
Exactly.
But yeah, how was I have a friend who spent like a year or 2 years in Vietnam, and she loved it. Like just exactly like the way you described it on our little Google Doc. You were basically free and open, good views, nice people, great food. Like it's kind of like good views, but like it's probably just like relaxing, like 24/7, like when you're in a big city and all that stuff, it's kind of like, I don't want to say restricting, but kind of, you can't really spread your wings as much.
Yeah, I mean, Ho Chi Minh is crazy. It's like insane.
New York of, yeah.
Yeah, insane. But like the countryside is so underdeveloped and just like natural beauty. They have like these gigantic caves that were just discovered like 2 years ago, and got to go through them. They were amazing. If anyone has a bucket list, like add Vietnam caving to it. It is so cool. And yeah, all the beaches. It's less touristy than like a Thailand or an Indonesia, and that's just like a lot of raw beauty. And yeah, the people are amazing and the food is amazing. So
well, what was that like when I guess you transitioned to Nike and Converse, where you kind of stepped into the factories? Was it like your workload dramatically increased, or
I really liked being able, like that was a highlight for me, being able to go to Southeast Asia every year. I love traveling and I love culture, so it was really cool. And yeah, stepping into Nike and Converse, it was very different being in corporate than government job, but yeah, I liked it.
That's good.
It's a cool transition.
And I saw that you mentioned, I guess a big point was you were what kind of made you go to Tesla, like, or what made you want to leave, I guess, Converse?
Yeah, so I have always liked like Tesla's mission and like sustainable energy. And so right now I work in the solar side of Tesla, which is a little bit lesser known, than the car side. But I just like their mission in general of making the world like a more sustainable place and looking into batteries and using the sun and all of that. And I've always wanted to lead a team of people, which I'm now getting to do. So I'm leading like a team of process engineers and getting to work with them on setting like what's important and growing them. And yeah, really enjoying that.
Okay, so this is going to be my nerd part, but I try to keep up with the solar world in general, and especially electric cars, because that's I don't know, I think you've driven in my Jeep before, because I think I gave you a ride back from Julie's wedding. But
yeah,
my next car is hopefully going to be electric. But what I was reading would be like, and I know you can't comment on this at all, but like like switching out batteries like in cars rather than recharging them. Like in theory, like if you had solar panels on the roof charging like your secondary battery, when you get home, your first, you know what I mean? Like you don't have to worry about, because that's, as you know, the hardest part is keeping the energy of the sun into those batteries from the drop from the solar panels to the batteries. Because in theory, if you could harness all that energy without a huge drop from what it is nowadays, because A, you're trying to improve the efficiency of the panels, and B, you're trying to basically maximize that energy into the batteries or do it instantaneously. I think like that would be the coolest thing, if they can actually do switching out batteries, where you come home, you've got this charged battery from your roof and your solar, what do they call those? The solar roof
solar roofs. Yeah, solar roofs.
Well, what are they, what's the actual product? It's like the roof
Yeah, so there's solar roofs, which are
Shingles or whatever.
shingles. Yeah, completely shingled, like glass shingled roof. It looks really cool. And then there's the solar panels, which are, just the panels.
Yeah. Well, I thought the roof tiles was like, I actually haven't looked into the logistics of it, but I was like, this is, I mean, more surface area. It's got to be better. It looks cooler.
Yeah, it
And
looks
I'm like,
cooler.
everybody wants a Tesla. It's just going to
Yeah.
be on your roof.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. It's just kind of expensive right now, but yeah.
Yeah, I did see that price increase. Like, basically, they're like, by the way, it's going to be 20% more than we actually thought. Which, I
Yeah.
mean, I totally get. I mean, like, you're trying to not, I don't want to say lure people in, but you're trying to get people excited about it. And so they pre-register for stuff. And then, by the way, 1 year later, it's going to be a little bit more expensive. Still going to
Yep.
be what we promised, but a little bit more expensive. Um, but overall, you like the Switch. Obviously, you like it because you're teleworking now as well, which is
Yes.
probably amazing.
Yes. Love working remotely and traveling still, but not now within the US. So get to go to a lot of the warehouses that are spread out across the US and meet different people there. And my whole team's remote spread across the whole US as well. So
What?
that's been new.
And that's, I think I only know one. Like Texas. Texas is a big one, right?
Yeah, there's 54 warehouses in the US, so
I didn't
a
know
lot.
that.
Yeah. Yep, a lot. Hmm.
Wow. So I guess, I mean, you're definitely getting your travel points then.
Yes.
I guess what's the most like remote area of those though?
So luckily most of them are pretty close to cities because that's where the customers are.
Oh, I gotcha.
So yeah, we house the raw goods to be uh for the crews to get to install on the roofs. And they don't want to drive a ton after picking up all the like materials that they're going to put on people's
Mhm.
houses. So they're pretty close to like metropolitan areas.
Okay. And
Yeah.
I'm gonna bring this up just so I don't forget to bring it up. But you got a type 3 on the Enneagram. I don't think
Yes.
if I like to pop this into people because it's just funny how closely it matches. Did you get to read it at all?
Yeah, I did. And yeah, I did agree with it. Like type 3 and type 1, what were they called again? I did read about it.
Type 3 is I'll just read it, and it
Yeah.
just sounds very romanticized from what I like. Mine just sounds like I have ADHD, which I do. But 3 are self-assured, attractive, and charming, ambition, competent, and energetic. They can also be status conscious and highly driven for advancement. They're diplomatic, poised, but can also be overly connected with their image and what others think of them. They work workaholism and competitiveness. Like, obviously I can tell you're competitive just for the
Yes.
sheer like like me, like I said, I'm lazy or cowardly by not switching jobs, but you're just like constantly looking for just ways to get better. And then volleyball is just like,
Yep.
I mean, I can't think of anything. There's probably just as competitive stuff, but volleyball is just like instantaneously competitive, if that makes sense, because you're either dealing with like and you're doing beach volleyball, which is what,
Yeah.
four
No,
people
2.
usually.
I only do
No, I
2.
meant like in all.
Oh,
Like
and
you've
all,
got,
yes.
yeah,
2v2.
yeah. So it's just like,
Yeah.
I mean, I would imagine you've been in screaming matches before, just because like if it's out or it's in or
Oh
like,
yeah. Oh yeah, it gets controversial.
I
Um
mean,
yeah, it's fun. It's like the reason I like it now better than soccer is just like this is a weird way to put it, but like the ball to people ratio. You get just so many more touches with volleyball than soccer. Soccer, there's like 11 on your side, 11 on the other side, and there's one ball.
yeah,
Now it's like there's one ball and 4 people, and you're really in every single play.
yeah. And I
There's
mean,
no way not to be.
well, I was gonna say it's really easy to just like, because you're probably your one thing you do when you get into your cities. Do you actually like start looking up where the volleyball courts are?
Oh yeah,
Like, where your
even
spot
before I
is.
move.
Kind of like an attic. You're like, okay, like I'm here. Like, where's the volleyball courts? And I assume you've got a forum site too, like a website you usually hit up, right?
Yeah, there's yeah, different things on Facebook. See, the thing about volleyball is kind of everyone forms like secretive groups, because if you have like one bad person show up, it kind of ruins the whole game, because
That
there's
is
only
very
4
true.
people.
That
Yeah.
is like a common volleyball thing, like, because I mean, it's all about the volley, right? Which
Yeah.
sounds stupid when I say it out loud, but I mean, it's all about like making that repetition and like, yeah, I've never, well, it's like not everyone plays volleyball, so they're like, oh, when's the last time you played volleyball, billiards, like, you know, like those like 10 things that usually take like a net and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like it's
Yeah.
not like soccer or like football or baseball
Yeah.
is a little kind of like
Yeah.
volleyball.
It's like
But
soccer. If one person's bad, you just don't pass to them.
oh yeah, where they get like one touch.
Yeah.
But I was definitely that soccer player. Like I had my like I loved soccer, but compared, well, you know John Mark. John Mark's
Yeah.
like the
Yeah. He's incredible. You
Yeah,
were on our
and-
intramural team though, weren't you? I don't
yeah,
remember. That was
I was
so
more
long
of a,
ago.
I'm a good defender, but it's quick story. When John Mark and I were in 4th grade, we were on opposing soccer teams, and we were good friends like in 3rd grade, so we'd known each other. But we played each other on a Saturday, like, you know, an OBGYC, OB, you know what I'm talking about, like the soccer league in Montgomery
Oh
County.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what it's called. It's something like that. Only Boys and Girls Club. That's what it was
Oh
called.
yes.
And you know how they have colors. They don't have like names or anything. It's like the blue team versus the red team. So basically, I was defender. John Mark's coming like near the end of the game, like to try to score. Nobody else is around. And I swear it was all ball. I didn't hit him or whatever, but you might not know this about John Mark, but John Mark was he was a short player. Like he was a short kid back in 4th grade. He was like it was ridiculous. If you see pictures, you'll be like, that's John Mark. He's like so small. And like it was all ball. He's like going to the goal. I kicked the ball out and he like tumbles, you know, like this was the start of flopping and stuff like that. And this was 4th grade. Like you don't even think they have red cards in 4th grade, but I get a red card. It's like probably some guy from like, you know, like who loves watching European like soccer and stuff like that. And I get thrown out of the game.
Oh my gosh, in 4th grade.
I know. And then I'm like, I think I probably cried because I was just so offended that he thought that I had like done that to him. And then you know John Mark, he's just like smiling in the background, like
giggling. Yeah,
giggling. And then that day I went to a barbecue at John Mark's like aunt's house, and they're just telling the story like to everyone, like, yeah, this Michael got a red card, got kicked out of the game, and all this stuff. And I'm like,
you're not bitter at all.
No, not bitter at all. Yeah, that was probably the only red card, but yeah, with soccer you kind of avoid those people.
Yes.
But with volleyball, you're so right. It's just like it's gonna sound stupid, and I don't play as much volleyball, but I would imagine there's like a romantic-esque vibe to it. Like you're obviously you like the competitiveness, like
Yeah.
you might like to get the immediate points, but it's all about those good volleys or good saves, right?
Well, it's all about the chemistry between you and your partner too. So like it is like finding a partner that you like want to go steady with is like finding a romantic partner.
Yeah, because like that's the other thing I didn't even think about, like the person you're working with. Like you said, you only do 2v2s. So it's like if you've got a bad partner, you're like, that must be like as hard as breaking up with someone, right? Like like especially like with cheating, right? Like if you find another good, like a better partner than the one you've been with, like, for 2 years. Have you done that before? Have you like broken up with a volleyball partner?
Yeah, well, it's kind of a weird dynamic. And like some people play with the same people every single time, every single tournament. So there's a lot of tournaments down here in Florida. And then some people switch it up every tournament. So it really, it goes back and forth. And it's a weird thing, like asking someone to be your partner in a tournament, because you're like, am I going to get rejected? Like, do they want to play with me?
I mean, you're putting yourself out there, and then like, I guess at some points, like you're like, am I the bad one? You know what I mean? Like it's like nobody's saying yes to me. And can you do multiple? Like, if you're in a tournament, can you be part of? I guess you can't be part of two different teams,
There's
right?
usually 2 days. So the first day is the same gender, women's or men's, and then the second day is usually co-ed.
Okay. Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. So
And
you need to
I
find
mean,
two partners for each day if you want to
and,
play 2 days.
and I didn't think about this, but like, not that uh in your profession, like you're working for efficiency, you're working for like low cost stuff like that. Like you're working the margins, and I feel like that's like hugely competitive, right?
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Finding this is kind of how my brain thinks. It's like finding the best way to do things, like the most optimized. Like even when I go do errands, like I will optimize the shit out of my errands.
You and me are very similar in that aspect, because I will look for, like, for example, we've got a leak in the basement of our house, and my Kara's like immediately like call a plumber and stuff like that. But I'm like, I want to figure out what the issue is, so we're
Yeah.
not like calling a plumber and this guy's like ripping out all the walls. I want to figure out what it is and tell him, and like he can do it. He does it.
Yeah.
He'll probably do it much better than I do, but
Yeah.
like I just want to make sure, like, I'm an engineer. I can figure out where a leaky pipe is. I might not be
Yeah.
able to do the actual brazing and like all that stuff, but I can at least figure that out. And that's what we do with like Costco. Like, there's no reason for me to go to Costco. Like, I'm gonna spend enough money. Like, show me a person who's spent less than $100 at Costco, because that's the
Yeah.
minimum for delivery. And I'm like, just do Costco delivery. Like,
Yeah.
there's no reason not to.
Yep.
I don't know if you're a big grocery delivery person or not, but
I am not, because I live alone and I feel like I want to be able to pick my things out so I can I also hate throwing away food. I don't know. I
man,
hate it.
we are very alike, because like my parents live with us because they take care of Law. That's my son's name, short for Lawrence. But my dad it just cringes me, because he'll just buy stuff, especially if it's BOGO. He'll buy 2 of it, even if I liked it like 5 years ago, if I liked Chips Ahoy, he'll buy it like again, and it'll just clog up, like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
just
yeah. Yeah. Yep.
it just really and the thing is, you can't, I don't know if it's like this for your parents, but like once their brain has like gotten to a certain age, like my parents can't change. Like I've tried.
Yeah. Yeah,
They're
yeah.
hoarders. Like I can't change them. I've come to terms with it, and I
Yeah.
just decided like I'm not going to be that way. Like I'm going to change my opinions. Just like, you know how a lot my parents are they're completely fine with people being gay and transsexual and
Yeah.
stuff like that, but other people I know at that age, like they
Yeah.
literally can't change. And I'm like,
Yep.
at our age, what is it going to be, like robots? Are robots going to be like sentient, and are we
I
going to
know,
give
I wonder.
like,
Yeah.
are they going to ask for the right to get married, and are we going to be like, yeah, that's fine, or are we going to be like totally against it? You know what I mean? Like, what's
Yeah.
our thing
I
going to
wonder
be?
what's gonna come when we're their age. Yeah. Who knows?
But yeah, completely to get off topic. Um, so when I asked you before, like I guess on the Google sheet, you were like, this is beyond your expectations of where you thought you were. Like, because like you said, you were your father's an engineer, your your grandfather's an engineer. So you came into tech wanting to be an engineer.
Yeah.
Like, what did you, I guess, envision when you thought you were going to come out of college? Did you imagine like this is like, I think every engineer imagines like a bridge, or imagines like something like something
Yeah.
stereotypical, like I'm
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
design
For
this.
sure. Yeah. So I actually found industrial engineering during like a like admitted students day. And so yeah, I found that it was like, yeah, finding the best ways to optimize things, which I've always loved to do. And it's kind of like managing the other engineers. So you need to know about engineering, but not like all the weeds and details of some of the other ones. So it is kind of the easiest engineering to get a degree in. But I really like enjoy it and like that decision. And then both the companies I've worked for, I've really enjoyed, and really agree with both of their missions. So that was important to me too, like bringing sports to everyone, was Nike's, and they're about sustainability and that kind of stuff too. And then Tesla, we already talked about.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, because I mean, this is going to sound stupid, but like the job I'm at, I actually believe in it. Like I can't even imagine being at a company that you're like second rate and saying something like, oh, like, I mean, it's good, you should buy, you know what I mean? Like you actually believe in it.
Like working for like a cigarette company or something.
Exactly. Those are the people who are probably just like born salesmen, like could sell snow to an Eskimo, as they say. Sorry, Eskimo. I don't know if that's politically correct, so I apologize to any Eskimos or Alaskan Native Americans. So basically what I was trying to say, which I lost my train of thought yet again, is like engineering was always your drive and always what you were going towards. You just, I guess, you had no like vision of what that was going to be then. Would you say that?
Yeah, well, I think like that came to me kind of after graduating, of mixing like my passion with what I do for work. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. Industrial engineering, you can really do anything. Like you can work for any company that has a good or a service, which is basically every company. So it's super broad. So then you have to like narrow it down of like which of these millions, billions of companies do I want to work for?
Okay. And just reading through some of your notes, like you were mentioning all these sacrifices you have made. So I guess like on some of these big job moves, you kind of had to have like kind of, as my boss would say, a come to Jesus meet. I know you're Jewish, but it's his expression he likes to use. But basically, you had to have like a heart to heart, like with yourself, to kind of think like, is this good for me? Like, do I just want to like? You've had those moments, kind of like thinking about like, is it worth it to kind of like stay?
Like, so I have moved 6 different times, as I said in the beginning, to well, 6 different states. So 7 times, 6 different states, like as an adult. So after graduating high school. And like, you know, every time you move, you have to make a whole new group of friends. A lot of like
volleyball partners.
Yes, volleyball partners. A lot of my relationships, I was dating a guy and they would end because I'd be moving. So yeah, it was a lot. It was, every move was, you know, and it gets harder and harder as you get older, because when everyone's fresh out of school and moving to a new location, everyone's like, yeah, let's all be friends. This is easy. Let's go out and drink, whatever. But as you get older and like into your late 20s, early 30s, it's like how everyone's at different stages of life. Like we're the same age. You have a kid, you have a wife. Are you living in the suburbs? I don't know. Probably.
Basically, yeah, suburbs.
So it's just like, so it's like, yeah, we're the same age, but like now it's harder to find people that are there's so many different, I guess, bands of people our age and like what they're doing and where they are in life, that it like gets harder to make friends. But like through sports and then through like just being social and getting out there, and like when I moved to a new city, my motto is like never say no, like never turn down like an opportunity to like meet a group of friends, or like when I first get there. And that's like helped a lot. I already have like a huge group of friends in St. Pete. Been here since November. So so it's gotten easier and easier, I guess, or harder and harder, but easier and easier at the same time. Boston was different, because Boston, a lot of people are born there and stay there or go to school there, and they already have their groups of friends, versus like St. Pete, everyone's come here in the last like 2 to 3 years.
I have a really weird question for you, which I just found out a couple of weeks ago. So turkeys are rampant in Boston, correct?
Recently, yes. Within the last like year, I've seen turkeys. Like I was living in Southie, which is pretty much downtown Boston, and like you could see turkeys on the street, and that only happened the last like year.
Okay, because I thought that was like extra. Where I work, it's like right next to like a, not like a well, it's not a preserve, but it's something like that. And there's 2 turkeys that always like walk around, and I think it's just like so weird, because you never see like wild food. That's the way I want to put it. You never see wild food just walking around. Like nobody's gonna And you're from Montgomery County, so well,
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know if it's specific, but Montgomery County doesn't have that unless you go to Damascus or
Yeah.
something like that. Like you don't have stuff like that. All you have is like Canadian geese and like
Yeah.
deer.
Well, yeah, once in a while we'd have a deer in our yard and like in Bethesda, which was so weird, but it was cool.
Yeah, it was cool, but it's just like if you're not from West Virginia or Southern or like when I say West Virginia, I mean like west as in the direction of the state, but like, you don't eat deer, you don't hunt. Like
No.
I never knew maybe one person in high school who was like a deer hunter, but like that wasn't a thing. You know what I mean? It's just like it's kind of mystical to me that turkeys just walk around. It's like I'm saying, oh, there's deli meat walking down the street. You know what I mean? Like I think that's crazy.
Yeah.
And
When I lived in Georgia, all my friends like hunted and actually tried wild turkey and squirrel and like all those things. So that was a wild experience. Very different, like down in middle of nowhere, Georgia.
And my brother-in-law literally just like hunted a turkey 2 days ago and like cut it up. Like I don't even want to look at what skinning or defeathering looks like, but he literally cut it up and he had like, obviously it doesn't look like deli meat, but it looks like turkey like you would buy in the store, and I just thought it was crazy. But he's like one of those guys who has that experience, and like he's crazy. He's crazy like skilled and knowledgeable. He's a great guy. But circling back from my turkey question, and we already talked about your environment, how that shaped you and your type 3 mentality. Let's go into, I guess, one of my big questions. What is something that your parents did that you'd like to pass on? Not necessarily I don't want to, I started saying this like for people who want to have kids, but let's just say like, I don't know if you want to have kids or not, but like what's something you want to pass on and what's something that you kind of wouldn't want to pass on to your kids if you want to have them?
Yeah, eventually I do want to have kids, hopefully.
There we go.
So I already said this at the beginning, but like encouraging STEM fields, because you can really just like make a bigger impact, get a good job and all of that. Another big one growing up is like experiences over tangible things. And I think my parents were like kind of woke about this, to be honest, because I feel like that's just coming up now, is like people would rather do experiences than tangible things. But when we were growing up, it was very much like, especially the high school I went to, like you needed to have like the designer stuff or whatever. My parents were not about that, and like didn't like to give me Hanukkah gifts, but instead every year we would go on like a big family vacation to somewhere like cool, cultural. Never like Disney World or something like that. I've still never been to like Disneyland, Disney World, and I live in Florida. But we got to go to like a ton of cool different countries, experiences, culture. So definitely want to pass that on to my kids. Another one is we never had cable TV or video games growing up. So when I got home from school, like I'd always just play outside. That was like developed my love for the outdoors. And it wasn't until I went to Virginia Tech that my parents got cable. So as soon as I went there freshman year, because they wanted to watch the Hokie football games. So I turned them into fans. They got cable and I missed out on all of cable. But that's really okay, because I mean, now really no one has cable because everyone does streaming services.
So you're an Arthur kid like me, because I didn't have cable. I just had broadcast.
Definitely watched Arthur. Yep, exactly.
And the other thing is, whenever you turned on TV when you were sick, The Price is Right was always on. It was just like no matter what time you woke up, and it was just I guess it was just me, but it was just like that's always on.
Or
and
Family Feud. That was the other one.
Family Feud, but it was with like either the guy from Home Improvement or Louis Anderson. One of the two was the host back then.
Yep.
Probably nobody knows, but it's just Steve Harvey.
Yep.
But
and now, the last one was really also like no sodas or juice. My parents like did not buy them, keep them in the house, which was kind of ironic because my dad's grandfather and father owned and ran a soda company, Cott Beverages. And so my dad like grew up on the bottling line, like that was his first job, and then raised me with no soda.
maybe that's why, like, you know,
Yeah,
how, like,
they saw
people
what went into it.
exactly, like, they know, like, the nitty gritty of, well, you know more than anything. Well, you just dealt with, like, footwear and, like,
Yeah.
yeah, like, nothing that you actually have to
Nothing you
consume. So
consume. Yeah,
yeah, like,
exactly.
I guess if you worked at Coca-Cola, you would be well, I don't know. You would know how it's done, so you kind of steer away from that. But yeah, I totally agree. Like I was telling you before, I totally agree with, like, all of that stuff. However, the broadcast TV, like, I grew up the same way as you did, but I kind of want the complete opposite. I would say I watch way too much TV now than I did when I was a child, just because it's kind of like Amish people who don't go back to being Amish. They just, like, go the complete opposite direction.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
actually don't watch much TV now. Like I watch hardly any, but I don't know why. I guess I just don't prioritize it.
yeah, like, I wouldn't say I prioritize it. It's just like
Yeah,
I
something to
definitely
do.
watched a lot. Yeah, something to
Yeah,
do basically. But
yeah,
obviously, I do stuff like this. Like, I've got random hobbies.
yeah, yeah.
It's
This
not
is an awesome hobby. I love it.
well, yeah, it satisfies my ADHD for now, so we're gonna go with that. But yeah, I it's funny the way, like, all your stuff kind of correlates to my, especially the like, my parents, like I said, they're kind of, they are hoarders. It's just, it feels like I'm like bashing them when I say that, but I've always asked them for experiences for gifts. Like, if you're gonna give me, like, I don't care about gifts. Like, you don't need to give me gifts. I don't say that to be ironic. It's like, if I want something, I'm gonna buy it. You know what I
Exactly.
mean?
That's how I feel. I'm like, I don't really need gifts.
Like, that's the thing. Like, I can't tell people what's up when they ask me, like, what's going on, and B, like, I don't know what to get me because I just get it. I'll research it and then I'll get it.
Yeah.
So, but experiences are the best because, I mean, like, hopefully I can remember all this stuff and, like, it's going to be a great experience. Um, but yeah, that's kind of what it is. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think we've reached the end. Oh, I had
You've
one more
y-
question for you. What were
yeah,
you gonna
you
say?
forgot one of them that you were
What
gonna ask.
what was I gonna ask? I'm sorry. Remind me. Keep going.
Um, so yeah, moving to like different places, like the 6 different states and stuff. I said how I like always have to make a new group of friends and all of that, and leave behind friends and boyfriends. So one thing that I've like discovered recently, well, actually, like 3 years back. So I downloaded all the apps when I like first got to Boston because I was dating someone for a year. I really just I hate the apps of like you match with someone, go to a bar, you have a drink, it's like stale small talk, and like it's just like forced, I feel like. So I changed like so what I did now is put on my profile of like it says ideal first date. So I wrote tennis. So that way if a guy plays tennis, they can message me and be like, yeah, I'd love to play. I've been going on a lot of tennis dates. So I love this because you get to find out about their like competitive side and how they deal in like a competitive social environment. And then also I it's important to me to date a guy that likes the outdoors and doesn't likes my natural stuff, like no makeup, sports clothes, all of that, not dressed up. And then if the guy kind of sucks or you don't hit it off or you're not a match, like you are spending time outside in the beautiful sun and getting a workout in, so it's like not a waste, not in
I
like a dark bar.
I I do like that. That was, I don't know why I forgot about that, because I've got a couple friends who, like you said, they're like 32 right now trying to use those apps, and they said the biggest issue is the profile and the pictures because I mean, it comes down to first impressions.
Yeah.
And the thing is, this is the girl who I mentioned before, and she's the one who helps me. She writes the descriptions for the podcast because I'm like the worst writer you've ever met. You know what I mean? And one night when she was over with a couple other friends, and we were just looking at her profile, and she was just being cut and dry. She was like, no funny business. Like, she was being very direct, which, as you know, can be like an issue on the dating apps if you're just like like I don't like Amazon, like I don't like funny business, like like all this stuff where you would just be like, okay, she's like a little intense. Like you just bring out the baggage like on the second or like third date or whatever. But
Yeah.
I remember what I was going to ask you. So where do you see yourself in like 5 years? Do you have like an idea?
Yeah, I mean, so my life has been kind of like all over the place. I love to like seize the moment and if
Never say no.
anyone, yeah, never say no. Travel a lot. So 5 years is tough. I mean, I would hope I'd be married in 5 years. I thought I'd be married by 32. My 32nd birthday is tomorrow, so
That is
coming
amazing.
on to it. But so yeah, I hope I'm still like active, playing sports, traveling, still working. I am trying to do the like fire thing. So do you know about that? Fiscally
No, what
independent
is that?
retire. So fiscally independent retire early. So
Oh, John Mark's doing. I'm trying to do that, but we'll see how it works. Like 40
so
is what I'm aiming for, but we'll see.
yeah, so not probably not in 5 years. That's too soon. But yeah, eventually do that. Just bought my second house. So yeah, trying to be smart about money, but then at the same time, like still have really cool experiences and like fun
Yeah.
times.
Yeah. No, I totally get that because like I told you, we just went to Puerto Rico and like
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be. I mean, it is pretty affordable depending on like where you go, but like just the flight there and back, especially since we bought tickets like a week before we went.
Yeah.
Like we just did it like, oh, we're gonna go. We'll just like it's the time, you know what I mean? Like if she has a week of spring break, or like we're gonna spend this time doing something fun, like they're like the cost is the cost. Like we'll pay it because like
Yeah.
when are we going to be able to do this again? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I spent 3 months in Puerto Rico and loved it. And I've spent 3 months in Belgium. So yeah, a
What part
lot
of
of
Belgium? What part of Belgium were you?
Um, I was dating a Belgian guy. So during COVID, during quarantine, spent 3 months
Mm,
there. It was kind of in the middle of the country.
okay,
But it was a cool experience.
because I've been there a couple times, and I
Yeah.
always enjoyed Belgium. Uh,
Yeah.
and then people are going to ask you what's that person called? It's the piss statues all
Oh, the piss.
over
Yes, I
Brussels.
saw that. We got to travel all over after like originally during COVID, there was like you weren't allowed more than like 5 kilometers from your house or like you could only
Yeah,
bike, you couldn't
yeah,
drive. So but when that lifted, we got to like explore everywhere,
yeah. I
so
think the best part I liked was Ghent. Ghent was just like
and yeah, that
pretty and
was, yeah,
interesting.
it's gorgeous.
And
Yeah.
then I mean Bruges was nice. I mean,
Yeah.
it's nice for what it is, but like Brussels was just kind of like a
Yeah.
city. If
Yeah, I didn't really spend much time in Brussels.
But yeah,
A little bit.
yeah, I loved Ghent, and like I
Yeah.
said, Bruges was
Again, this,
nice.
yeah.
Did you go to there's like a brewery in Bruges that basically I don't know, you probably know this, but they can't build at all in Bruges because of like they keeping the history because it wasn't bombed
Mm.
by World War II. But it's called like Half Moon Brewery where they pump like all their beer to like a place like completely away from the city because they can't expand at all. So
Oh,
in
I
order,
didn't. I
yeah,
don't think I went there. I went to a brewery there, but I don't know if it was that one or I didn't hear the story.
I definitely recommend it. But what they do is they brew the beer there, and then they have a pipeline that goes like 2 or 3 miles to a bottling facility. And supposedly, I just thought it was crazy that
Wow,
they would
that
do
is
that.
wild.
And people tried to break into the line to get the beer and all this stuff. Like, I don't know, it was fascinating for
Wild.
drinking and doing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess that's the end of my questions.
Cool.
Thank you again
Awesome.
for doing this. I
Yeah,
really
this was
appreciate it.
fun. Yeah, you're so easy to talk to, so it makes it easy.
Why, thank you. I don't think my voice is good, but I guess
Well,
I'm good at bringing interesting stuff out of people. I might not be
yeah,
interesting, but maybe that's my interesting thing.
yeah, it is definitely.
If you like this week's episode of People More Interesting Than Me, please follow me on Apple Podcasts so you won't miss out on more episodes like these.